Hello everybody, welcome back to High Ground. My name is Tanner, and today I'm going to be doing a recap of the first day of Swiss at the Copenhagen Major. So first day of phase number 2. Phase 1 already in the books, but not the tip-top in terms of competition level in phase number 1. So this is where you could say the real major starts. Pretty much all the expected teams to advance from phase number 1 did advance, and so here we have, pretty well what was expected to happen in phase number 2, at least in terms of the initial stuff. So yeah, we have the results, and then we already have the matchups for the next day. So we'll talk about that when we get there. In terms of my predictions for day number 1, I did really well, 7 out of 8 of them. The only one I missed was the round 15 game between M80 and Wolves, and that came down to, one round. If M80 had won it, I would have got 8 out of 8. I feel like the day was relatively easy to predict. That one was a little bit of not a shocker, but a bit of a surprise, and then also the SSG beating G2, a little bit of a surprise, but I did get that one right, so it evens out. If you got less than like 6 of them right, you probably trolled your predictions. But anyways, let's go down the line. The first 3, you'll notice a bit of a demolition derby. Only 3 rounds won by the losers over the course of the first 3 maps. APAC taken to task for the first 2. 1 round won by Scars against W7M, 2 rounds won by D+ against Sonics. Not a great look for APAC. I think give them a little bit more of a chance. Those are definitely 2 tough teams to be paired against in the very first round. And I think they both played they played some fairly solid Siege just against some really tough opponents. And I think particularly in D+ against Sonics, there were a few rounds they probably should have won that they choked away, that they got clutched on. So, don't write them off just yet. Maybe they can win some matchups here and then maybe some upsets from there. In the third matchup, Liquid versus Revan, the first 7-0 of the event, the first 0-in of the event. Joe went Joe in 7, and I think double Joe 7, because I don't think he had an assist at that point, but maybe he had one. I don't think so. I think he went 0-0 and 7. So not a great look, but I mean, I don't think anybody expected Revan to get any farther than they did here. Maybe they play Scars, maybe they get a win here. That's probably one of the likelier teams that they could get a win against, but they're probably quickly on their way to getting eliminated 0-3. Dark Zero versus Falcons, and so the first 4 you'll notice are none of them have 2 of Brazilian, European, and North American teams. The other 4 do, so they put the more one-sided matchups, I guess, as the earlier ones. And I do think a lot of people did think Falcons was going to take down Dark Zero, or this was like an even matchup. I feel like I even heard more people saying Falcons, but that might be a vocal minority or whatever. It goes 3-3 on the half, and then they switch to Falcons switch to attack. They get the first attack. It's on Theme Park, so you got to feel not great as Dark Zero in that position. I guess 3-3 half is fairly solid, but then Falcons get the first attack. They're up 4-3. It's like fairly even, I guess 4-3, but you have the defender side advantage. They do get the next 4. So they clean it up fairly cleanly, I guess, 4 rounds in a row to make it a 7-4. And FaZe versus Eminem, a bit of a comeback here. Eminem was up 4-1. Solotov had like 14 kills or something like that over the course of the first 5 rounds. But from that point, FaZe win 6 rounds, only drop 1, and they win it in regulation. Don't even have to go overtime. In this event, it doesn't matter if you go overtime. Maybe you'll be sweating a little bit more, but it doesn't hinder you in any way. A win is a win, and it doesn't matter how you got it. But yeah, FaZe, pretty massive comeback there. Eminem, a little bit of a choke, whatever you want to call it. M80 versus Wolves, a significant comeback by M80. They were down 3-6, and then they won 3 in a row to push overtime, and then they go back and forth. I think it was Wolves that won the first round. Maybe, I don't know. It was some order. I think it was Wolves, and then M80, and then definitely Wolves obviously won the last round because they won 8-7. A bit of a heartbreaker. Spoit dropped 22 kills. I believe that's the most kills dropped in any map thus far throughout the event, but not enough. Especially Keynote went like 2-10. I don't think anybody else on the team went positive. And so not a great look. I think most people were expecting M80 to be one of the top teams in the Swiss, and they still can. They could still go 3-1. And I think a lot of people are also expecting M80 to be like top 4, top 2 at this event. Really high expectations for them. Let's see if they live up to it going forward. It's just 1 loss, and it's the closest loss you can get. But I think they were, in most people's eyes, a fairly heavy favorite against Wolves. But I do think that is discrediting Wolves a little bit. They've been really, really hot recently. Obviously, they were 2nd seed out of their group, not beating W7M, but still. in all their non-W7M games recently. They've been on a pretty big hot streak. G2 versus Space Station, maybe the biggest upset of the day. I don't know, depending on how you want to call it, but probably so. Fabian finally loses to an NA team. He was 17-0, 17 win streak, never lost to an NA team, and I guess as a player he can still boast that he never did. But now as a coach, finally, and it was just the best of one. It is what it is. Most of those 17, if not all of them, were not best of ones that he played against NA and won. But what else can you say about it? Merc and J90 and Hot and Cold continue to be very good. Forest and Folt struggling a bit more than the others, but still you can't complain too much about a 7-3 win against the world champions. Maybe Bank wasn't the map to go for G2, but it is what it is. SSG, I feel like if they continue in this form, they are maybe not favorites, but I think they are. They're in the running for major winners. They've been pretty good, and it's only been, it's really early days. It's still too early to say something like that. I guess they've only won 3 best of ones, but we'll see what happens going forward. And then Virtus Pro versus Ninjas. Maybe a bigger beatdown than the score indicates. Ninjas win the first round, and then Virtus Pro wins the next 6 rounds in a row to go up 6-1, and then Ninjas get 3 in a row. They're almost mounting the comeback, but then Virtus Pro closes it out. So, what else can you say about it? Maybe less close than the score would indicate. 6-1 is obviously pretty devastating of a scoreline to be at any point. Okay, so yeah, I think a lot of expected results, some decent games, only one overtime. I think games should probably get tighter and tighter as we go. There's more on the line as we advance. Okay, so for predictions for day number 2, Space Station versus FaZe. I think Space Station's the favorite here. I'm going to go with them. They won their game more decisively than FaZe did. FaZe had to make a pretty sizable comeback, I suppose, and SSG just been pretty hot at this event. I think most people are going to go Space Station, but just as is the case with most of these best of ones, I wouldn't be surprised if it went the other way. But yeah, I'll stick with SSG there. Virtus Pro versus Wolves. So they didn't meet each other in the stage at all in EUL, if I remember correctly, but they did play each other in the final of the first Gamers 8 qualifier, and Wolves took it down 2-0, and they were both. It was like a 7-4 and a 7-5. There's no overtime. So, I mean, maybe Virtus Pro has a little bit of an advantage in that they saw more. Wolves maybe tried a little bit harder. Maybe Virtus Pro was pulling their punches, maybe for this exact situation. But, maybe not. Gamers 8 is a pretty coveted event. A lot of money to be won there. And I think I'm going to go with Wolves here. I think an underdog pick. Wolves, like I said, they've been fairly hot at this event, losing to W7M, but still pretty good wins otherwise. And before the event, they were on a super hot streak, including that Gamers 8 qualifier, including their run up to and including the LCQ to make it to the major. I think they're just on a hot streak, and they have proven that they can beat Virtus Pro. I'm going to go with them. I think a lot of people will ignore that Gamers 8 thing, but I don't know. That's what I'm going to opt for there. W7M versus Liquid, and I believe these two didn't play each other in the stage either. They weren't in the same group, and then W7M lost to FaZe, and then Liquid also lost to FaZe, but Liquid did it at a point where they were already qualified for Phase 2. W7M had to go to Phase number 1. They even had to beat Los 1, I guess, to make it there first, but they did, and they've been pretty much indomitable throughout the tournament, but I guess technically Liquid has been completely indomitable. They haven't dropped around, but they've only played the one map, and it was against Revan. I'm going to give it to W7M. It's even a little bit more interesting, this matchup. It's Volps on Liquid versus his old team of W7M. Maybe that does give Liquid an advantage. He probably has a lot of insights, and he was one of the big minds behind what W7M was doing. I don't know. I just have a little bit of a feeling. And honestly, after I say this, I do have a little bit of a feeling maybe Liquid will win. But this hopefully will be a banger of a match. And I guess I'll go W7M. Sonics versus Dark Zero. Same sort of thing. They, of course, they played each other. Everyone in NA played against each other. It was an 8-6 win for Sonics. But then in SI, they played each other in the upper bracket first round, and Dark Zero took it down. It went map 3, max overtime. Dark Zero won at 8-7. So in the last 2 maps that they played, it was an 8-7 win for Dark Zero, and then an 8-6 win for Sonics. And they're 2-2, I suppose, in their last 4 maps. So if you include all 3 maps from SI, plus the 1 map from the stage. And if we're, assuming the whole back and forth nature continues, then I guess Dark Zero would take it. But I don't know, Sonics a little bit more warmed up. They had a better win than Dark Zero did. Maybe they had a weaker opponent. And I don't know. I almost feel, I don't know. I'm going to go Sonics. It could go either way for sure. Obviously, it's been proven that these guys run pretty close, but I'm going to go with Sonics. And okay, in the In the lower, I guess it's not actually a lower bracket, but whatever. The 0-1 teams, Scars over Revan is what I'm gonna go with. I'm not gonna pick Revan against anybody, even Scars. I guess Scars only won one more round than Revan, but still, it just feels like there is a bit of a gap between the two teams, and maybe that will be shattered in this game. We'll see. Maybe Revan is the better team. Maybe they'll catch him off guard, whatever the case. But for now, I'm gonna go with Scars, just like I assume most people will. G2 versus M&M. They were, I think, not in the same group, but they did play each other in the playoffs, and it was a pretty handy win for G2. It was a 7-0 and a 7-4 in one order or the other. So pretty destructive win for G2. 14 rounds to 4. And I'm gonna go with G2. They I guess they had a worse loss in the first round. M&M got 5 rounds, G2 got 3. But if you consider everything else, anything else, I think G2 are definitely the favorite to win it there. I'll go with them. Then we have Falcons versus D+. D+, not a great showing initially. They did have to play against a tough team. Maybe against another team they would have got more rounds. Maybe on a different day they got more rounds. But I'm going to go with Falcons. They looked pretty solid. They were first seed out of their group and then only losing to Dark Zero. I'll rock with them for now. And then M80 versus NIP. M80 definitely feels like the stronger team. They had the closer game. Virtus Pro was kind of smashing them. Nip close-ish to the comeback, but not quite. And M80, they did mount the comeback enough so to make it to overtime, but not to win the game. I'll go with M80. And all right, so I guess that does it. Let's go down the line one more time. I have SSG over FaZe, Wolves over Virtus Pro, W7M over Liquid, Sonics over Dark Zero. I actually picked all 4 teams on the right, funnily enough. And then I have Scars over Revan, G2 over M&M, Falcons over D+, and M80 over Ninjas in Pajamas. All right, so if you have your own predictions, feel free to leave them below. If you noticed anything if you noticed anything like big from the first day that I didn't point out, feel free to do so in the comments, or just whatever. Feel free to leave any sort of comment. Always appreciated. A like and a subscription would also be appreciated. And with all of that being said, I will catch you guys in the next one.